Hello and welcome to the Come Alive podcast. I'm your host, Mehermir Chandani. I'm a mother with a story, a business leader with a vision, and a leadership coach with a mission to transform lives and businesses. I am dedicated to empowering 10x growth in fellow humans by unlocking the transformative power of self-connection. I'm happy to announce a unique collaboration with YPO MENA and Regional called Every Journey Has a Story to Tell. It's a 24-episode podcast series of inspiring YPO members. If you'd like to be on the show, please do reach out to me and I'd love to host you. So today I have with me a serial entrepreneur best known for his philosophy on building company culture, which he has documented in his book called The Orus Effect. He has a master's in business with a background in mechanical engineering and is a tech enthusiast who has been featured across multiple media channels for his leadership perspectives on building a group of companies that employ over 5,000 people across South Africa, the Middle East, Asia, and the United Kingdom, as well as digital transformation. Jason is a failed Formula One driver turned adrenaline junkie. He served in the South African police force and is qualified helicopter and drone pilot and loves anything that's fast enough to get him killed. He was selected by Peter Diamandis as one of 250 global thought leaders on futuristic technology and was voted in 2021 as the MENA region's technology leader of the year by Ventures Connect. So thank you, Jason, being with us today. I'm super excited to learn about your journey.
Thanks, Meher, and wonderful to be here. Very excited.
So this is a very special series. I've started with YPO, which is Every Journey Has a Story to Tell. And I'm so excited to get inspired and inspire my audiences with your journey. So let me start with, what have you not done and what's next on your wild adventures?
My wife always tells me, this vision that I have of doing anything that's dangerous enough to get me killed, I shouldn't take too literally. But I think there's three things that are still on my bucket list. The one is to travel to space. The other one is to dive with crocodiles. And the third one was to go in a submarine, but I've since scrapped that idea.
Yes, a lot has happened on that front. So why the need for this?
I don't know. I think as individuals, we grow up getting, our adrenaline from certain activities. Some people find that, in alcohol. Some people find that in different forms. I guess I just find my dopamine rush coming from adventure and excitement. And I think it also tests our limits. It tests my capabilities. It tests my sort of fears. And I think that I thrive off that. And it helps me to know where my limits are. And, we all live to try and to push ourselves to our limits. So this is some of the ways that I test myself.
So in other words, to grow yourself outside your comfort zone and to know yourself a little better and to keep growing yourself, correct?
Exactly, and life's about adventure, right? So you may as well explore what you can while you're alive. So
absolutely, it's beautiful and it is scary for me. So in your book, The Orus Effect, you document your philosophy on building company culture. What compelled you to write the book, and what is your need for this message of company culture? Because I'm also a big believer of company culture and how we can thrive when the culture is right and, when we lead from our heart. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, so, firstly, the book was, a COVID story, like many others, just trying to figure out what to do during COVID. But essentially, the entire message of the book stems back to in my corporate career, where I've been in the past. And one of the things I recognized is that as individuals, we have these ideas, these beliefs, And as we build teams around us, it doesn't matter whether it's the owner of a company or whether it's your team in a corporate organization. One of the challenges we have is, how do you get your teams to buy into your same vision, your same, ways of wanting to do things? And often we think that, we're just giving a job description and setting KPIs sort of does that. And I think one of the things that I've learned is that in order to create a company culture that you want, it largely stems down to how can you intercept and, infuse your vision, values, beliefs right the way through to the guard at the entrance or the receptionist. And so that's really what the book is about. And I've done that relatively successfully in multiple businesses, which initially I thought it was just a bit of luck. And as you know, you make your own luck, but we started having continuous luck in different industries, different segments, different size of companies, and then realized that actually this is a real thing. And so, I guess during COVID came and everyone was quiet and people said, you should write a book on, this Orus philosophy. And Oros has become a big thing in our businesses for the last 10 years. And it's a drink in South Africa. So it's well known, it's a popular drink. And when you say the Orus Effect, it captures people's attention if they know it.
So it's a drink.
So it's a drink. And the concept is you pouring your concentrate over everybody else in your organization.
Oh, beautiful.
That's the philosophy behind the book.
Oh, amazing. So it's what you believe in.
Correct. And it's so effectively my Oros is what is my vision, what is my values, what's my purpose, and why do I do what I do? So, when you've got people that are buying into that process and are on that same journey with you, you have a lot more success than when you have people on the journey that are against what you fundamentally believe in or are trying to achieve. And so I think that's where, that, and the book talks about different aspects that you can create. A simple example, we're a construction business, is one of our businesses. Construction companies are generally dull, boring organizations. So I wanted us to be a technology-led, innovative construction business. And so we ripped out all boardroom tables and threw bean bags in every room and, colors all over the rooms and motivational quotes and canteens and podcast rooms and gym rooms and shook up what the traditional... And those are the symbols and sermons that ultimately help you to translate that Orus into effect.
Amazing. I love it. I can already visualize it. So tell me about your values. What are the values that the company holds and how do you kind of infiltrate that within the organization?
Yeah, so we have four primary values. Safety, because obviously we're in that engineering and construction business, safety is fundamentally important. The second one we have is people-centric, and I'll tell you about how they kick in. Third one is being agile. I think we live in a world that is changing rapidly, and so being able to respond quickly to clients' changing needs is important, and industry needs. And the last one is being responsible. We're a global business. We have a lot of decentralized operations. We need people to act responsibly with the investors' money, with our shareholders' money. And so ultimately those values, we translate throughout the organization in multiple ways. We have at the entrance of all of our offices, we have a sort of adjacent English creed, for example, that everybody sees, guests, visitors, and the staff every day, which talks about, our vision, our values, and why we do what we do. We have, safety at the agenda, or the first agenda on every meeting point. We have innovation talks every week led by our digital and AR team. So it helps with the agility. We talk about our cash situation and funding. And so trying to get the responsibility in. And then people-centric, that's really something that you earn. It's hard to just talk about it. But we do. Our decisions fundamentally are taken on the basis that if it's going to put people in a difficult situation, unwarranted, that we should probably not take that decision or not make that decision. And so every decision we take should have a people-centric focus, but it doesn't mean that we won't take the hard decisions just because people are involved.
Absolutely. Wow, wonderful. Amazing. Love it. I believe that every organization should run with values, and of course they have to have a why which is bigger than themselves. And that gives so much intention and meaning to life, because I guess that's where we spend most of our waking hours. I mean, doing work for the organization, with the people, and in the organization. So I love what you've been building, and of course it's commendable, and
And there is something else I can add to that. I use the philosophy of a house, and I talk about this in the book too. But when you think about building a house, you have this vision, and as an architect, we're not in that space, but you have this vision to build this beautiful building. And what is the most important thing to get right? It's the foundations.
Yes.
Because once you've built the house, if your foundations are cracked, weak, unstable, it doesn't matter how pretty or beautiful the building looks. It's going to come down during the first storm. And so I use that analogy in our businesses as well. Foundations are, what are our values? Because if our values are embedded and they're solid, the rest of the house can take wobbly, can go through storms, but it will stand.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a great analogy to think about.
Absolutely, I agree. The foundation has to be the strongest, and it has to be watered every day, like they say, like a plant. Kind of amazing. Love it. So you address yourself as a failed F1 driver. So when I obviously read your intro and your profile, I was like, why would you call yourself a failed F1 driver? So why is this important to you, and how did it help you become the successful entrepreneur that you are right now? And I would love to hear more about those struggles.
Yeah, so I always wanted to be a race car driver. I grew up adrenaline, racing motorbikes, cars, superbikes. I eventually raced into Formula 3. But I guess where it stems from is that I realized very quickly, and the race that I specifically remember, a race where, there was a 16-year-old kid. And I just remember seeing how aggressive and brave he was through turns, etc. And there was no ways I was going to pass him. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't have, excuse the word, but I don't have the balls to do and push the limits that he's pushing. And so at that particular point in time, it became a realization that I was never going to become an F1 driver. And so, very early I quit that idea. And it wasn't really a struggle. It was more just a realization that sometimes we also need to stare at ourselves and take a real good look at ourselves. We've got ambitions, which are always encouraged. Follow your passions, follow your ambitions. But there's also got to be a point in time where you recognize the disadvantage you might be at, and that you either need to change your strategy, or you're going to keep pursuing and potentially going on an ego or a bias that sinks you. And so that was some of the lessons that I learned from that experience. But today I still enjoy it. Ironically, I now work with Formula One and we build Formula One infrastructure. So I'm kind of close to my passion, but just in a different environment.
Awesome. Lovely. So how old were you then? I'm curious to know, since you said I would never, surpass a 16-year-old.
That was up around 18, 19 years old.
Okay.
But the difference between a 16-year-old at that stage and a 19-year-old at that stage is pretty intense. So.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And that's also a great realization. So you didn't spend enough time there rather than, learn the lessons and move on and see your weaknesses and strengths. Like we say we need to see those also, right, in time to be able to do or move to the next level in your life.
Yeah, people are afraid to expose their weaknesses, and they're afraid to acknowledge their weaknesses,
Yes.
Or embarrassed.
Yes.
And my view is quite simple. Like, we have people that are great at certain things and are better at other things. And what are you really good at? And focus on that. Because ultimately, coming back to your vision, if you've got this vision, you need to put people on the journey with you. If you don't fundamentally believe that you're going to reach that goal, what chances does everybody else behind you have of thinking that? So be true to yourself, and then bring people underneath you that support that Northern Star. And generally speaking, you're going to have a better chance.
Absolutely.
It's just a view that I have.
No, absolutely. But also a lot of people live in denial, right? They still want to do it, like you said, with ego or, to fulfill some part of them because they're in denial of what they can achieve and what they can't. What's your take on that?
No, I agree. And we all have our biases. I have my biases, right? I mean, I learned a really hard lesson during COVID, in fact. We built one of our businesses as a technology company, and we built this technology that I guess fundamentally we had poured so much money into it that our bias blocked the reality. And so we had spent so much money that we were convincing ourselves that this was a good product. And we kept pushing it and kept pushing it and kept spending more money. And, we sunk a few $1 million down the drain until such time as, we just decided we can't go anymore. But we could have stopped that much earlier had we seen the writing on the wall, acknowledged it, and actually said, look, what's our reality and what's our biased consciousness? And let's split the two, and let's not get emotional about this and let egos get in the way. And I think, again, these are great lessons that you have, because I'd rather do it on a few $1 million than $100 million. So again, sometimes we win, sometimes we learn, but we never lose, right? So
Absolutely love that. Sometimes we win, sometimes we learn, but we never lose.
Exactly.
I love that. Thank you. So, as a thought leader in futuristic technology, how do you balance the fast paced evolution of tech with the need for stable and consistent company culture across multiple regions like South Africa, the Middle East, and the UK? And why do you believe in it so much?
So I think, firstly, why do I believe in it so much? I think that, we cannot deny that the world is shifting, and there is a technology enablement that's happening all around us. As business owners, I think one of the biggest advantages to technology is our ability to grow, because it doesn't mean that it's going to replace people or do anything like that, but it enables people to do so much more, and it enables businesses to do so much more. And so, if I think about my own journey, when we started our company, we were an office of 3 people in 2012. And that sort of progressively grew, to 200, 400, 700, 1,000, 200 people over the first sort of 4 years. And everyone always used to say, how have you done that? How have you scaled? How have you managed to onboard all these people? Like, there's no way we would have been able to do that without technology. And so what I realized very early on is, okay, there's only one Jason. Jason has his vision as his Oros. How do I make sure that everybody that's coming into the business understands what that is? And so then we created a video where I could talk about you as a new employee joining our organization. This is what we stand for. This is what we want, etc. This is my belief, my visions, values, etc. We then started to infuse that all around with digital technology, where we created a learning platform and got everybody onto the learning platform. And then it just kind of evolved into, so many other things, where you think about ERPs today. Like, you wouldn't be able to operate a multi-global business without some form of ERP. You can't do it on Excel spreadsheets. It's just not going to work. And so, I think the key thing is, what is the right technology to solve the challenge or the problem that you have, and not get caught up in the hype of technology, because there is a lot of hype out there at the moment, especially around AI but many others. So for us personally, technology is the driver that helps you to scale your business, because you can decentralize things and you can automate processes. And if you do that well, then you're going to have a great success.
Absolutely. So use technology to your advantage to, of course, forward you in any business or in your journey or in your life. And that's how we adapt, and that's how we make the most of it.
Yeah. And, another simple example that I would give is, if you think about systems and processes inside businesses today, there are so many. And, anybody that writes a process loves one thing: pages and pages and pages. Everybody that has to read it hates one thing: pages and pages and pages. And so how do you now, in the modern world, using AI, solve that problem? Well, you could take all of your digital process, you could take all your processes, you can digitize these, and you can create the AI chatbot. So now, there's no longer somebody having to search through folders, Google Drive or Office 365 files, pages of documents on servers, trying to find the documents that always end up getting lost. You just ask the AI and it gives you the answers. And so now you're saving time, efficiency. Nobody has access to your raw documentation, your raw policies. So from a security perspective, it's much better. Like, there's just so much positive value that can come from using the right technology to be able to support your business.
Absolutely. So, your love for adrenaline pumping activities like helicopter piloting and drone flying suggests you thrive on high risk scenarios. What does it give you? And what void does this fill for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to work that out, to be very honest. I don't know what the void is. I guess, coming back to what I said earlier on, it's we all require that adrenaline rush, and I think my adrenaline rush comes through that. Other people's adrenaline rush will come through raising kids. It'll come through, driving businesses. I guess mine just comes through putting myself into uncomfortable and challenging situations. Yet they're also the most memorable. I mean, one of my dreams was to fly in a military fighter jet. And I've done that, and went onto the stratosphere and saw the world all curved, and
Wow.
those are moments that I remember, right? I don't remember the business decision I took, I don't know, last week, let alone 5 years ago. So I think it's those moments that I like to create, and flying a helicopter has been really, really an insightful part of my journey, actually, because it's really helped me as a leader to rethink about how you manage businesses. The best context I can give you, which again is covered in the book, but if you're on the ground in a helicopter, there's a lot going on. There's people around you, there's obstacles, there's potentially trees, kids. You've got to worry about so many things. And so your focus is limited to you being on the ground and what's around you. And this is what most of us as leaders do. We consume ourselves in our business so much so that we just focus on what's around us. But as you sort of pull on your collective and you rise that helicopter out of that environment, you sort of see that big overwhelming item on the ground all of a sudden shrinks into becoming such an insignificant part of a bigger landscape. And all of a sudden you're up there, it's no longer scary, it's no longer overwhelming, it's insignificant.
Yeah.
And so I call it the 6,000 foot view. And one of the things I always talk about to leadership teams is, you as leaders have to move yourself into the 6,000 foot view, because you have so much more clarity on where your business fits into an ecosystem and how it impacts on an ecosystem. And actually that, what you think is really important and what you think is really overwhelming is actually not. But we don't allow ourselves to get to that space where, we remove ourselves from the day-to-day.
That's very, very true. And I love the analogy of 6,000 feet above, because we are so caught up in the day-to-day and the drama and trying to fix things that we are not able to, I guess, work on the vision, even if the company has set it sometimes. We know that's the vision, but we get caught up so much that we're unable to sometimes see the vision. And I often tell my team members the same thing. I'm like, let's think of the vision. Let's think of the direction that we are going at. Don't worry so much about the issues that happen or the situations that happen, because we will anyways pass this very soon. And that's when, the situation turns positive, because you're like, okay, you know what, the vision is much bigger than something that we're doing right now.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Exactly.
But what I want to also ask is that you're so committed with your journey, your life, and of course you have 3 children and a wife. And how do you manage that? Like, do they feel jealous of your adrenaline activities? How do the kids react to it? Because I know when I work a lot, or when me and my husband are not available at times, which we try our best to be mindful about and give ourselves that discipline to be more with the kids. But you know how it is, that there is some kind of you do so much that what's your kids' feelings on those?
Yeah, so I mean, look, finding balance is a question that I guess every leader gets asked. And the reality is, I don't think there's a perfect answer. You take people like Elon Musk, I'm sure there's not much balance in his life. Whereas you take somebody that's, just a full-time charity worker, there's not much balance in their life either. It's just a different kind of balance. So the way that I manage it myself is I live in a bit of a triangle. And on that triangle is 3 points. Those 3 points are wealth, freedom, and meaning. And I think when you're starting out a business, everything's about wealth. You have zero freedom, you have zero meaning at that time. You're just, how do I survive? And so your triangle is going to not really look like a triangle. It's going to be very flat, because all your time is spent there. As you sort of evolve through your life and your wealth creation, you sort of try and find a way in which you have more meaning, and that you have more freedom. And I think it's about trying to balance that as best possible. So, I can use an example. If you've got all the freedom in the world, i.e. you're homeless, you have all the freedom in the world, but you've got no money and you've got no meaning, you're unhappy. You can have all the wealth in the world, but if you have no meaning and no freedom, you're unhappy.
Absolutely.
And you can have all the meaning, you can be a social worker, but if you have no freedom and no wealth, you're unhappy. And so I think, there's no perfect solution. I think it's about recognizing where I am in that triangle at any point in time and recognizing my imbalance and then trying to just shift the balance slightly back. Not go extreme one way, not go extreme another way, but there's going to be shifts. And coming back to how the family sees that, like we have a vision and values in business, like we have a vision and values in our family.
Beautiful.
And I think that's also important, because instilling those vision and values within the family is also just as important to get them aligned. I mean, when I was doing my master's in business, it was crazy. I was not home. It was 2 years. Every night I was getting home 11 p.m. studying. It was a tough journey. But my wife and I had agreed on the principles. There was a time slot that I had to give her every day for 2 hours. And that was it. And it was our dinner time and just a quick talk time. And that's it. And then she would accept the fact that I wasn't there Saturdays, Sundays, because I was studying, So it's just about alignment to what you're trying to achieve. And I think if you can do that, even as a family, then, you end up struggling less than what you would if you didn't have that alignment. And certainly from conversations with some of my friends and other business colleagues, the challenges come in when we don't have those conversations.
So it's all about clarity and communication with your loved ones or with your team members, or it's about being able to authentically communicate.
Correct. And you talk about divorce. I use this analogy a lot. You get married and you start dating because there's things that you fall in love with together.
Yeah.
You're both on the same journey. You enjoy the same passions, whatever. That doesn't remain like that forever in many people. They drift apart. Some people value wealth more than they value freedom or meaning, and so you end up with a disconnect. And it's the moment that you have that disconnect that the problems really start. And so, I'm not a psychologist by any means, but certainly I think if you brought it back to basics and just started to say, right, what is it that we want to achieve at a family? Is wealth important to us? Because maybe the answer is no, it's only important to me.
Absolutely.
Then I have to make a decision as to, I'm going to stop driving so hard in wealth because it's not important to the family. Or yes, it is, but to eliminate, finding that balance I think is really important, and then communicating and agreeing on it is really important.
Yeah, I love that. That understanding that what is important. So I do ask my kids the same thing. Do you like your mom working? Because of course, as a mom, we have to make sacrifices when we work. Like today, they wanted to really go for breakfast. It was their last day of summer holidays, and I still had some preparations to do for the podcast, and of course needed to cater to some work things in the morning. So I had to cancel in the morning. I said, listen, I don't think I can really do this. I will have to finish my work and finish a few calls before I get ready and head to the podcast. And they were like, it's okay, Mama, don't worry about it. And I'm like, okay. And then I was thinking of the same things exactly, that our values and what is important to us. But of course it is important to me because it makes me who I am, and that's the way I become a better parent. When I do the things I love and when I do the things which are important to me in my growth and journey.
Exactly, because if you weren't doing them, you'd also be miserable. And then a miserable
Absolutely.
mom at home doesn't help anybody either, right?
Absolutely. But that's beautiful what you said, the 3 corners. I want to take away something from there. So how has your experience with YPO impacted your leadership in life, particularly coaching others on purpose, vision, and values? And you're such a prominent member of YPO, and you give so much by being on the board. And I'd love to know more. I've joined YPO 3 years ago, and I'm part of the MENA 1 collaborated chapter, and I'm loving my journey.
Yeah, so, I mean, look, I think the problem with many members in YPO is they don't get involved. And so you really don't know what's not out. You really don't know what's out there. So you don't know what you don't know. I think one of the things that I'm very blessed to have done was I got sucked into board roles literally my first year in YPO, which was 2015. And so I've had an amazing journey in YPO, but I've also really tried to do a lot of things. This year is my 39th role in some capacity, champion role in YPO. And I can honestly say I keep going back for more because of the amazing people I meet, the stories I see, the stories I hear, the places I get to see. And it's such a powerful organization that has so many incredible resources that are prepared to give their time to you, just because you're part of that organization. And so I don't foresee myself not being involved in any capacity anytime soon. I really love it. It's helped me mature as a person. I think when I came in, I had a reasonably successful business when I joined YPO. I thought I was, on top of the world. I thought I was great and cool, and very quickly I was brought down to size. And yeah, that really happened by being involved. And the typical one scenario I can give you, there's probably two, but there was one where I met a woman in Los Angeles, and I was like, thinking, what do you do? And she was like, no, well, I'm the COO of the Virgin Hyperloop rail system. I was like, wow, that's crazy. I said, how did you get that job?
Yeah.
I said, that's pretty cool. She
That's
goes,
a good
no.
question.
Well, I used to work at NASA. I was responsible for landing the shuttles on the International Space Station. And she's like, so what do you do? And I'm like, doesn't matter. And I think it's those moments that you start to realize there's people that are changing the world around you in our organization, that we are actually just so lucky to be part of this. And really, it doesn't matter how successful we are, how great we think we are insignificant in the bigger scheme of some people in this world. And it's great because you become those you surround yourself with.
Absolutely.
And so the more powerful, the more change makers that we're surrounding ourselves with, the more likely we are to become, those people. So
yeah, I agree. So as a married father of 3 living in Dubai, what are your biggest challenges to maintain a healthy family? I know we touched upon this, but I'm sure everybody wants to know how in YPO forum we talk about family, personal and business. So it would be great to understand how else do you manage everything along with a beautiful and healthy family.
So firstly, let me not fool anybody. I think I'm really bad at this, and I've cried many nights around some of these challenges, right? I think the reality is there's people that are, trying to change the world, and they need to make sacrifices. And that sacrifice, unfortunately, is usually family and friends. There's people that don't want to make those sacrifices, which is perfectly fine. In fact, we need them, because without them, the world's completely unbalanced. For me personally, I think I have shifted somewhat with the help of YPO. I think historically, I would have dropped anything just to go chase money and business, and family was the least important thing to me. As time's gone by, and I've sat in forums and heard other people's stories, it's made me really think. As they've lost folks, as I lost my dad, I started to reconsider some of these priorities and focal points. And so what I really try and do now is I've become certainly more consciously aware of the key things that are important to my kids, the key things that are important to my wife, the key things that are important to my family, to extended family. And I've tried to work around those. So, my daughter's birthday is coming up in 2 weeks' time. There's something really important to me that I can't be there for. So, I asked her, what's important to you? Daddy being at your birthday, or can we change your birthday to the weekend earlier? Is that okay? And, bringing that alignment, it's important that I'm at her birthday, and she doesn't have an issue with the date. She doesn't care about the date. So that's the compromise that we can find. So I try and figure out what are the key dates, make sure that I'm available for those key things. And that generally helps a little bit. Another initiative that I'm not good at, but I've been trying to do is the one-on-one time. So, very often what we try and do is, as leaders, we try and cram everything in with all of our kids and all of our family, but they have different wants and needs. I have a son and 2 daughters, different ages. The son doesn't want to go shopping at the mall. Son wants to go to the skate park or go do some adrenaline activity. And then if you just go to the mall, he's bored and he's unhappy. So I've tried to spend this one-on-one time now and take them out, even if it's only for an hour, 2 hours, where you just get father-daughter or father-son time in their zone where they're happy, whether that's at a trampoline park, whether that's eating ice creams and talking rubbish to their dad, whether that's going away for a weekend, whatever it is, camping, etc. And I think that that's some of the ways that we keep that bond. And in actual fact, I think it's, 100% of 1 hour's time for a child is probably better than 1% of 100 hours of time.
I agree. Quality over quantity. I say that
Correct.
to my husband all the time. I'm like, it's the quality I give the kids, because we also have this. Oh my God, am I giving enough time to the kids or not? But I always say it's quality over quantity.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, and that's beautiful when you address mindfully that what they need. So I love it what you said, the one-on-one time, and this, like, rather than taking everybody to somewhere where not everybody is happy, you
Yeah.
know, take care of their needs separately.
Exactly. And
Wow, you've had, I feel you've covered it all, kind of, and it's amazing. It's amazing to know that you have taken care of everything and everybody. That's beautiful. Well done.
don't fool yourself. It doesn't all work out as smoothly as what it
I
sounds
know, of
like,
course,
right? So
but
I'm
of
still
course,
really bad at this,
least the
but we try.
intention is there. At least
Correct.
the intention is set that you want to achieve this, or you are trying to achieve this, kind of. I think that makes a difference as well.
Correct.
So, being voted MENA's Technology Leader of the Year and selected by Peter Diamandis as one of the 250 global thought leaders is a significant recognition. Like, really, wow, wow, wow. How do you handle the weight of these accolades in terms of responsibility? And my question, does it fulfill your ego or your evolution?
Whew. I mean, look, I think it's a combination of both, is probably the fair way to put it. I think initially it would have been ego. I think as time progresses, you realize the impact that you can make, and it translates into something different beyond ego. This is exactly the same with PR, I remember when I started out in the whole PR world, like, I was just, every article that people wanted to interview me for, I was like, yes. But then you start to realize, okay, there's only so much you can cover when it's very superficial. So I think what it means for us as a business, and for me as an individual, is, I think, firstly, the award recognizes that, the efforts that I've put in as a leader to try and digitally transform organizations has been recognized. I think that's a good thing, and that it's not just you're doing it for the sake of doing it. So yes, that fuels a little bit of ego, but it also fuels an underlying inherent people validate what you're doing. I think when it comes down to Peter Diamandis, that was more of a real big appreciation in terms of being able to participate at that level and be able to be part of a community that really is changing the world. Being in the same room with the CEOs of Ubers and YouTube, and these are people that have changed fundamentally the way the world works, Liquid AI and all these big companies. And so for me personally, it's now, what do I do with that opportunity? And so, we work with other companies, we're investing in startups that are, very focused on software that's going to hopefully change, whether it's environments, communities. So we're plugged into a community that allows us to do that. And I think that's really, really important. And also it allows me to, challenge the way that some people want to change the world. And I think that's a privilege in itself. But yeah, it's been an incredible journey, and it remains an incredible journey, and very blessed. In fact, I now have the rest of my chairman and two of my other group partners also part of that community, which, there was only 4 ever South Africans. I was the 4th. And so it's a big privilege now that we have, 4 out of 8 that have ever been there are from our group. So that's great.
That's amazing. So you did say that it fulfills a little bit of your ego as well. So how do you keep your ego in check? Like, I've just recently read this book called Ego is the Enemy. So how do you keep it in check?
I mean, I think YPO is a big part of that, right? Because you constantly around people that have just achieved so many amazing things that it completely humbles you all the time. It humbles me all the time. So I think from an ego perspective, it's really, really, it's quite small at the moment. I don't think anything that I do is really around ego. I think now it's really around the impact, whether that's even in our work and our employees and, the community projects we're involved with, the investments we make. It's all, how is this going to change people's lives for the better? I think the ego part has disappeared. At least I hope it has. maybe from the outside, I don't know, but from the inside, certainly it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, it doesn't feel it in your energy for sure. So yeah, well done on that as well.
Thanks. And I think if it was all about ego, I wouldn't be giving as much as I do back, to companies like YPO.
Yeah, I agree. So given your experience and expertise in digital transformation and futuristic technology, what do you see as the most pressing challenges in humans, and how will this basically amalgamate the future of technology with humans and the capacities and all?
I mean, it's a very good question. There's no doubt in my mind that I think social media creates a lot of false perception. And so I think the biggest challenge that the world will have is people firstly understanding the rate of change. There's a lot going on and a lot being communicated, but fundamentally, I don't think people actually understand the rate of change. The second thing is the adoption. People are very resistant to technologies. They see it as a disabler to their careers, to their roles, to whatever it is that they're doing. And so I think changing that mindset is the next big step that needs to happen in people. And those are the challenging parts. So I think the world has a big challenge in terms of trying to highlight and keep showcasing how it creates efficiency for you. And in actual fact, it can lighten your own workloads, de-stress you as an individual. I think when we start seeing a lot of the technology, which we're already seeing in healthcare, how that's saving lives, rather than seeing it as invasive. You talk about security. AI is going to be and I'm just talking AI as a technology. There's like 9 different technologies, right? But AI as a technology, imagine how much of a safer world it's going to create for us, because it helps. It's much quicker than a human can identify people and activities or at-risk activities, etc. So it doesn't matter what sector, what industry you're in, technology is going to change. The advancement of robotics, automation, quantum physics, which is still coming. We're only scratching the surface of, let's call it artificial intelligence, and everything below that, from machine learning, deep learning, deep fakes, all these types of things are going to evolve significantly with quantum computing. Autonomous transportation, autonomous aerial transportation. All of this is just evolving so quickly. And the problem is that we're living in the world for the first time where the one is enabling the other one. So the faster AI evolves, the faster autonomous vehicles are getting built, the more they drive, the more they're feeding back in terms of robotic automation. And it's just this neural network that is expanding at a level that we've never seen before. So I think people understanding the rate of change and then actually having the mindset to stop resisting it and change. And I keep saying to all my staff, guys, you are not going to be replaced by AI or any technology, but you're going to be replaced by somebody who comes along and is using that technology, and you're not.
Absolutely. I agree. Yes. Amazing. And what's next for you before we finish?
What's next? Other than diving with crocodiles and going to space? I don't know. I think at a sort of crossroad in my life where I'm really trying to spend more time with the kids. As you grow older, you start to realize, and as your kids grow older, you start to realize you're getting shorter and shorter time with them.
Yes.
As you start seeing your parents that are still around, you start to realize shorter and shorter and shorter. So I think definitely from a personal perspective, it's trying to make sure that I'm engaged with my family. So much so that we've even designed a technology that will be launched very soon, will hopefully connect generations to generations, long beyond those that are still with us. So that's like a passion project that I'm doing with our team, and I think that's probably the next big focal point for me. So.
Wow, and congratulations on that next big thing. And thank you again for being on the podcast with me. I sincerely appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, and it was a pleasure meeting you and talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you for watching this episode of the Come Alive podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell on whichever platform you're hearing it. Would love to hear your thoughts and comments. And until next time, see you soon.